the 4 worst pieces of social anxiety advice that I've heard, and then the 5-step solution to overcome your social anxiety completely. Let's go. Number 1, fake it till you make it. All right, so this is of course well-intentioned advice, but what people are saying is like, be somebody else. Just puff up your chest, have your shoulders to the back, speak with authority, and all of these kinds of psychological tricks in order to appear confident. Now, while some of that may indeed work, what the problem is that now you're thinking about all of these things that you have to do and how you have to come across, and you are being an actor and you're not being your genuine, authentic self. And this trying to come off perfect, faking being confident, actually can lead to more social anxiety. And over time, as you keep this up, you're becoming very inauthentic. You're not being yourself, and you know that, and you feel bad about that, and that worsens your social anxiety as well. Number 2, stop giving a fuck about what other people think of you. Okay, this advice actually has some merit, because what it's intended to have you do is stop worrying so much about what other people think of you. However, that's very different from just don't give a fuck, man. That typically comes from, macho guys that, want to pretend that they really don't care about what other people think, but deep down they really do care about what people think, and they're trying to teach others to be just like them. However, reality is you live in a society, and what other people think does matter, unless you're a psychopath or a sociopath, right? So we want to get away from worrying about what other people think of you, and instead caring about what other people think of you. Now, when you're no longer worried, you will act based upon your values, based upon what you think is important, based upon what you think is right and just. And then when other people disapprove, that's okay. You can accept that. There's no problem with that. All right, so it's not about stop giving a fuck, like hating other people. No, it's like caring for other people still, but not worrying about their opinion of you so much, because you're the pro on you, you're the expert of you. You spend the most time with yourself, and you value and respect yourself, or at least that's what you want to get to on all levels. And therefore, your opinion of yourself, because you know yourself so well, is far more important than the opinion of other people. And so go away from worrying and get into caring. All right. Number 3, just avoid everything. Okay, this is a big problem, because while it makes sense that when certain situations that you're in, or also situations that you're in, make you feel anxious, make your heart race, make you give a lump in your throat, make you blush or have sweaty hands, or make you feel inferior, intimidated, or whatever, right? Emotional pain, because it's so awkward and uncomfortable, you naturally are going to want to avoid and just Netflix or be on your phone, or whatever the case may be. It's a normal response to want to get away from something that's painful. So there's that. So not all avoidance is bad. If there's a particular social situation that profoundly triggers you really, really strong, then just, gritting your teeth and going for it might not be the best advice. So in some situations, avoiding certain social situations is actually smart, as long as you then, in your avoidance, look at what's causing you to avoid it and do the inner work in order to transform it. So that next time when you're in that situation that used to be so super scary, it no longer is that super scary, because you've changed your inner psychology. So what I'm saying is, not all avoidance is equal. You can also avoid everything, and start to become very, very sensitive to the slightest discomfort. And your life as a result of that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Oh, I don't want to go there because I might have some slight discomfort. Oh, I don't want to go there because that's problematic. I might experience anxiety. There is a hypersensitivity to any negative emotion and avoiding everything and staying indoors. Well, that not only shrinks your life and makes you far less happy, it's harmful avoidance, because now in your mind you can start building up even more negative fantasies about how horrible and difficult and unbearable social situations are, and that you cannot handle them, and so on. So that's not great advice. Bad advice number 4: just face your fears. Right? And I'm not even talking about exposure therapy here in particular, because actual exposure therapy is well thought out and structured and so on and so forth. And there are some people that benefit from that to some degree. All right? It's not the end-all be-all solution. And if you ask me, it's an outdated solution at best. There are far more effective solutions than that. But what I'm talking about here is, right, just blatantly go face your fears. Are you scared of that? Just go do it. Face your fears, and the death of fear is certain. All of that kind of stuff. I know, because I actually tried that, right? I tried running up to a 19 or 18-year-old guy over 20 years ago, running up to women in Amsterdam and saying, "Hey, you like me? Give me your number." Purposely trying to get myself rejected. Or smearing bright red lipstick over my lips, making circles around my eyes, and walking through the city trying to start conversations with people just to face my fears, right? Because if you face your fears, then it's gonna disappear. No. You might numb yourself out to it temporarily, but it's then highly likely that it's going to return, at least in my experience and a lot of the experiences that I've heard. So that's not great advice either. Okay, so what is great advice? Well, there are 5 steps to overcome your social anxiety completely. And the first 2 will help you reduce it and manage it better. And the last 3 will help you overcome it completely. Let's cover the first one. Learn the right psychology. Now, social anxiety is actually a somewhat complex psychological problem. Now, it is explained to you most often in very simple terms. Oh, it's irrational negative thoughts, and you just need to change your thoughts and then make a hierarchy of the things that you're afraid of, and then go face your fears. Think outwardly. It's not as simple as that. So educating yourself on certain essential parts of the social anxiety problem, like for example, how different kinds of trauma cause or contribute to social anxiety. What kind of psychological things make social anxiety worse, and what kind of psychological mindsets make social anxiety less intense? How do you set yourself up for lasting change? Where does fear of negative judgment come from, and how can you eradicate it completely? How do you stop worrying about what other people think of you? How do you make sure you create lasting change? Okay, discovering the right kind of psychology. Step 2 is learn a emotional healing technique. I'm a big fan of EFT tapping. There are various other modalities, but I talk a lot about tapping because it has a lot of scientific backing and it happens to be very, very effective. And you can target the specific parts that make up the social anxiety problem quite easily and effectively. You can be precise with it when needed. Now, most people think that social anxiety is just negative thinking. No, it's not negative thinking. That is part of the problem, but there's actually stuck traumatic memories, disowned parts, there are negative fantasies, there are bodily sensations, and a whole bunch of negative emotions. But what keeps all of that together? It's negative emotions. And so when you're only able to talk about your problem and reframe and challenge You're not going to get to where you ultimately want to be. Where you ultimately want to be is free and at ease and calm and centered and relaxed and present and free to speak your mind, free to truly be your authentic self. Well, to get to that place is not just a logical journey. There's part of that, but predominantly it's an emotional journey. And so you need a technique in order to neutralize the excessive emotions that you feel, to process the traumatic memories, to shift the beliefs and emotionalized thoughts that cause your brain to see threats socially. And when you learn that technique, that allows you to be able to make that transformation. And just learning tapping as a skill in and of itself is going to massively empower you, because now when anxiety comes up, you actually have something to do with which you can begin to decrease that problem. It's very, very empowering. Now, when you, one, have an empowered psychology, and two, you have an emotional release technique in order to, well, manage your emotions and work through the things that trigger your social anxiety, now you're on the path. Now you're already able to reduce some of your social anxiety, and now you can get into doing the kind of work to overcome social anxiety completely and liberate yourself so you can feel calm, centered, and at ease socially. And so that consists of the last 3 steps, and that is ART. Allowing acceptance, releasing resistance, and terminating your triggers. So let's look at acceptance first. In order to overcome your social anxiety, it is essential that you accept yourself while you experience anxiety. That is difficult for people to understand, and yet it is essential. You need to accept the anxiety that you're dealing with, and you need to accept yourself while you're having the problem. Most people think, well, once I'm free of my social anxiety, then I can accept myself. It doesn't work like that, because you cannot reject yourself and reject your anxiety and think that you're magically going to jump into social confidence. Social confidence comes from being okay with you, with all of you, which includes your negative emotions, which includes your flaws and imperfections. Right? So acceptance is a key. And the beauty of knowing tapping is that you can target the negative emotions towards yourself for having anxiety and the judgments that you have towards yourself, and neutralize these. And then your non-acceptance begins to shrink and your acceptance muscle begins to grow. It's actually possible to get to a place where you accept yourself and where you accept the anxiety. That's possible, and that's a key. So the 4th step, or the second key, is releasing resistance. All right, I've been coaching people with social anxiety disorder for the past 15 years. I've been obsessed with social anxiety solutions for 22 years, overcame my own social anxiety, and I know every single client that I've seen, that I've ever worked with, had resistance to change. Now, logically, they all obviously want to get rid of their social anxiety, but there's a part of their mind, their subconscious, that for whatever reason, or several reasons, sees that being free of anxiety, no longer having anxiety, sees that as a threat, as a danger. For example, it might be, well, when I'm free of anxiety, I don't have this layer of protection anymore. Or when I'm free of anxiety, what if it's gonna come back? You know, and then I've built up my confident life and it's going to come back, and then no, that's going to be a disaster. Or what if I'm free of anxiety and there are now so many more expectations on me and I don't have anxiety anymore to point to for why my life is not working? Or fill in the blank, okay? There can be a wide variety of reasons. And in general, the subconscious mind likes to keep things the same. And if you've been suffering from social anxiety since you're a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, social anxiety feels very familiar to you, and that has become part of your identity. And your subconscious is like, we're not going to change that. Who are you going to be then? And so that resistance to change is actually your subconscious mind trying to keep you safe. It doesn't make logical sense, but that resistance is really there, and it needs to be addressed, because as long as your subconscious says, no, we're not going to change, you can try all the techniques you want in the world, including tapping, and you're not gonna get there. So what you need to do is there needs to be communication with the subconscious, and that needs to be transformed so that the subconscious mind understands that being free of anxiety has no downsides. There's only pluses to it. There's no risk and no danger in it. It's safe and it's beneficial, okay? Once you get to that place, you have freed up your energy and you have pre-paved the way for lasting change. And then finally, the last key number 3, terminating your triggers, which is also the 5th step, is where you actually look at, well, what is causing my brain to perceive threats socially? And now you're actually looking into your belief system, the kind of fantasies that you're having, right? Fantasies like, oh my God, I'm gonna get rejected. Everyone's gonna know about it. I'm gonna lose my reputation. Or what if I run out of things to say and I just stand there and everyone's just staring at me and I start to blush? Or what if, fill in the blank, right? Those fantasies and these beliefs that I'm talking about, like I'm inferior, I'm less than other people, people have to always think well of me. I have to get everyone's approval. I must impress people, like that kind of belief system. And then also the memories that we are reliving over and over and over. Okay, you got bullied when you were 12 years old. Now you're around this group of people, and to your brain, they kind of look dodgy. Just like these kids kind of look dodgy. And your brain is like, hey, it's happening again. Careful, danger. And you're feeling some of these feelings that you felt all over. And because there's a perception of danger, your brain activates the fight, flight, freeze response and you experience anxiety. So those memories, those beliefs, those fantasies, they need to be addressed. You need to use the tapping in order to neutralize the emotions associated with it. Get rid of your emotional attachments. And as you do, you begin to reduce the amount of triggers, you begin to reduce the intensity of anxiety, and you begin to reduce how long anxiety sticks around. And so gradually, by doing these 5 steps, so learning the right kind of psychology, learning about tapping, and then using this knowledge of psychology and skill in tapping to allow acceptance, release resistance, and terminate your triggers, you will gradually begin to release your social anxiety. Now, if you want to learn how to do that, to get started on that journey, because it's a journey to go from social anxiety to social confidence, you can get my free course, 7 Secrets to Social Confidence, by going to bit.ly/social confidence now. Check it out. And if you want to be inspired, check out some of these video testimonials of people who overcame their social anxiety.